Alright, hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. It's been a bit, mostly because of the lockout, but Hall of Fame voting happened earlier today, and I kind of just need to hop on here and kind of just say my shit, because this year's an absolute joke. It's been a joke for a while, but this year kind of solidified the fact that lots of the people who are voting don't know baseball in a sense. Like, they know baseball, but they don't know baseball. And it really came through today. So obviously Ortiz makes it first ballot at a 77.9%, which 100% agree. Ortiz to me is a first ballot Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame hitter. Fun off whether you're a DH or not, no one gives a shit. Like, I don't care if you're a DH or not, right? What Ortiz did is great. Like, he was a great hitter, one of the best to ever do it. The elephant in the room is that he used PEDs. Who else on this list used PEDs? That is of notice. That's very close to the top. I'm not going to go through everyone because like fucking 90% of this list use steroids. Bonds and Clemens. 10th year guys. So yeah, Bonds and Clemens, obviously big PED guys. Everyone knew it. It's like, you can just kind of tell with Bonds, and obviously he came out and admitted the fact that he actually did use it. But Ortiz admitted to using it as well, although Bonds did it later. But the Hall of Fame is a place in baseball in which you honor different eras of the game. You honor the old days, like the 30s and the 40s. You honor when pitchers were throwing 9 innings every week. They were 9 inning guys, and that's just it. I gotta quickly mute the desktop audio. That's a thing. You're looking at like Jim Palmer, Jim Catt, fucking Seaver, Ryan, those guys who pitched long careers and did a fucking great job at it all the time. And now, and there was lowering the mound, or the mound that was moved back, modern era baseball, which was Jeter and technically Ortiz. And even Mariano Rivera could be in that. But one of the biggest eras in baseball, whether you love it or you hate it, is the steroid era. It was the most popular era in baseball. It brought 90% of fans. Like, let's be real. People were seeing Bonds hitting bombs. You had McGuire, you had Sosa, you had everyone. You had the bashing. It was like insane. Had the big races. Like, oh, who's gonna hit more? Who's gonna hit this? Who's gonna hit that? How far is he gonna hit that? And to not honor that era, as bad as it was as bad as it is on like legacy wise of like one of the biggest eras in your sport is a cheating era. Shit happens. There's cheating eras all over. The NBA probably has their cheating eras. NFL, NHL. Like, they got it somewhere. The face of the steroids era was Barry Bonds. And today, electing David Ortiz, who was a steroid user, he admitted to using steroids, is a really, really big slap in the face to guys like Bonds and Clemens, who used steroids as well, and they were just as good. Bonds is the best power hitter, probably the best player in baseball history, if you really want to get down to it. And he's not in the Hall of Fame. The best player, the most well-known player in your sporting history is not in the Hall of Fame. Like, players, every player, Kevin Gausman, Ortiz even said it, Jim Palmer says Clemens has to be in the Hall of Fame. They all support these guys, even though they used PEDs. They all still support them as Hall of Famers. But the writers think that it's their job to keep people from going into the Hall of Fame and keep the Hall of Fame clean. But you just elected a guy who wasn't clean for his whole career. Now, I'm not saying every steroid user should be going in. A-Rod probably won't be a really close guy. He'll be a third or fourth ballot. And the only reason is because he got caught twice and lied about it. Same with Cano. When Cano retires, it'll be the same issue with him. But to not put Barry Bonds into the Hall of Fame is just a disgrace right now to baseball. I know there's going to be a lot of old heads who will be like, well, he cheated, he did this, and he did that. But the Hall of Fame, yes, it's the Hall of Fame for the great players throughout baseball, but it also honors the different eras, which was kind of like my last point of, what were the famous eras of baseball. Steroid era is the most famous era in baseball. And Barry Bonds is the front man of the steroid era. And he is not in the Hall of Fame. Like, to me, that's kind of just mind-boggling to the fact that they're voting in other guys who have admitted to using steroids, but because they didn't really break any records, they're all right, in a sense. Like, come on. The main thing on Bonds is, oh, you cheated to set these records. Yeah, cool. But this guy cheated as well. Okay? The steroids adds power, but it doesn't. The steroid didn't make Barry Bonds a better contact hitter. Bonds still had to go up there and hit that baseball every time that he hit. It wasn't like when he got up there, his back grew 5 inches and he was able to hit every ball. No, he still had to hit the baseball. So the steroids didn't make him a better player, that made him a stronger player. It made it so that when he did make contact, it would dominate the baseball and the baseball would go flying. Just like Clemens. It didn't make, it grew his velocity. He still had to keep control of this baseball. He still had to throw strikes to these guys. They're still professionals. It didn't make him this one god amongst men. He's still there. And I don't know. Steroids doesn't make you a better player overall. It just boosts your strength. It doesn't change. It's not like the steroids. It's not like, oh, I upped my contract overall to 99. We're using MLB The Show terms. No, it's just, I don't know. I think writers have to get off of the voting. Something has to change. I don't know if that can be brought up in CBA or talks or not, but the writers gotta go, man. Having reporters, some of these guys don't even know who some of these players are. Jim Catt was talking about his Hall of Fame run, about how one of these guys was, one of the writers that was put onto this voting ballot didn't start watching baseball until it was 89, I think it was. Didn't get into baseball until 1989, and Jim Catt had already retired in 83. That guy's got no idea who he is. So to have the writers in there, and these writers think that it's their job to protect the Hall of Fame from all of the cheating and all the other bullshit, is just wrong. It's the Hall of Fame. It's for the best players, and players who step on the field know who's the best, not just the writers. Because I'm telling you right now, if we had players voting, Bonds and Clemens are in the Hall of Fame with David Ortiz right now as we speak. Bonds and Clemens aren't on this list if players voted, because they were in before year 3. 1,000%. It's just, I didn't really prepare anything for this. I kind of just came on here to rant about why the Hall of Fame voting is horrible. And it is. Carlos Delgado, okay, he fell off of the list. One of the best power hitters in baseball. And he's not even recognized onto this list. I think he had 3% of votes, which is an absolute joke. Delgado just was not, he was one of the greatest power hitters with Ortiz and Bonds, but he's not on the talks for this list. I don't know. There's other guys on here that I can understand not getting on. I saw a lot of people pushing for Tim Lincecum. A 3 year dominant, like the prime that Lincecum had from like '08 to 2012. It's not enough to put you in the Hall of Fame. 4 years of being elite isn't enough to put you in the Hall of Fame. So, yeah. Other guy, Scott Rowland, 100% should have been up. One of the most underrated players to play this game, and he's not in there. Like, I don't. I'm not a huge fan of these writers voting. We've seen a lot of them leave their ballots blank, which is kind of like lots of disrespect. Like that's just such a huge amount of disrespect sent towards these players that worked their asses off to get to the point of where they are, and to think, like even this year, to think like an Ortiz or a Bonds or a Clemens or a Roland aren't even Kurt Schilling in there aren't Hall of Fame eligible players are not Hall of Fame players. It's just stupid, man. If you send in a blank ballot on a great card or like a great class of potential players, you lose your vote. If we have to keep these writers in, you have to vote for someone. Like you got to, because it's just you look stupid when you don't do it, and it's like you're there for a reason. It's to show, like it's to be like this person deserves to be there. And to think that like someone on that list, like on this class, doesn't deserve to be in there means you didn't watch baseball. You didn't know baseball. And you think, or you did, and you don't like the steroids, and you think it's your job to keep the Hall of Fame clean. Well, guess what? It's not your job. No one wants you to do it. No one asked you to do it. The fans don't want you to do it. The fans want the players to vote. The fans want to vote. That's why we're here. Why do you think the All Star game can be such a fun time? It's because the fans get the say, the players get the say. Hall of Fame, it's such a toss up, man. There's people, like, there's Red Sox fans. They didn't think Ortiz was going to get in. Ortiz is without a doubt a Hall of Famer. And the fact that he didn't make it would, like, there was Red Sox fan thinking that he wasn't going to make it. He made it in by 2.9%. You need 75 to get in. He had 77.9. That's, I don't know. That's kind of like, he's one of the best power hitters. And people thought, well, he might not make it in this year. Because, like, the writers might not vote for him. The writers need to go. The writers that have been voting don't know baseball. There's been some really good cards. Bob Nightingale, of all people, showed his ballot. It was one of the best ballots I saw this whole time. Morosi, I think, it was either Morosi or Rosenthal also put one out. Great ones. But then there's other guys, like they're leaving like Ortiz and Bonds and Clemens aren't on there. They got guys like Andy Pettit and Jimmy Rollins and like Manny Ramirez. It's like, no, if you're gonna put those guys, like Manny Ramirez especially, you gotta put in Clemens, Bonds, and Ortiz. The voters, the whole voting thing needs to change. It has to be players. I don't care if it's current players or players that are already in the Hall of Fame or retired players or executives. But something needs to change because right now it's an absolute joke and it's becoming a disgrace. So now Bonds has to wait a couple years until he is able to get this veterans voting. And that's insane to me. That he's one of the best power hitter has to wait another like 6 years to see if he's a Hall of Famer. That should have been answered 7 years ago. He should already have his plaque with his San Francisco Giants logo on there, smiling away. Just put him in the Hall of Fame. Keep it consistent. That's the only thing. My biggest issue is there's no consistency with who gets in and who doesn't get in. It's just Because for the reasons they leave someone off the list is the same reason they voted for someone else to go in. And that's where it gets just confusing and doesn't make sense. Because you go in and it's like, well, yeah, I put Ortiz in because he's a good power hitter and he was clean. Sure, he came out and said he used steroids, but he did it while he was still playing. Bonds did it, he waited till after. Yeah, but that shouldn't change a thing. Like, that shouldn't change on if, when you say you used them, you still use them. And that's where this could be a huge, like, I could probably go for 45 minutes talking about this. But just the reasonings for leaving people off and putting other people on just aren't, they haven't made sense the last couple of years. We've seen guys get jacked from unanimous decisions, like Griffey definitely should have been unanimous, and Jeter should have been unanimous, like, without a doubt. There was talks Mo, like, even Mo was like, is he gonna get it? Those guys have to get it as unanimous. Like, that's just nuts if they don't. So, yeah, that's kind of all. I'm gonna do an updated free agents predictions later on, and I'm also gonna talk about the CBA if we ever get some better news. That could be another rant because I'm kind of fed up with this lockout. So yeah, but I'll get you